I don't think anybody can really make a determination. It's definitely not a good situation for athletics as a whole or anything. It's hazing is it shouldn't occur anymore.
No,
in this day and age, it's unacceptable behavior.
And welcome to this edition of the 941 Sports Zone. I am John Massoni, here with my guest co-host, Brian Hatler. Brian Hatler is an assistant coach for us at the Venice High School football team and has a very sort of, I guess I'd say, a successful, storied Venice/Colorado/ career.
I've been around a lot.
Yeah. Yep. So we're going to get to talk to Brian. Brian goes back to the real early Nick Coleman days with Venice High School. Nick was a guest with us probably first, second, or third week of the podcast. So people got to know Nick and now get to know Brian Hatler as well. With that, we had our show last week. Josh Phillips, head football coach from Sarasota High School, came by, as well as a special kind of surprise guest who was in town for a vacation. Jeremy Brown, the head coach of Bay High School, up in the Panhandle of Florida near the Panama City.
Jeremy was on that staff in 2000 as well with Coach Coleman.
Right, so that's why I say it's sort of a surprise, but a fun guest, and talked about a myriad of different things. Josh Phillips, very interesting guy, a Yale grad, played both sides of the ball at Yale University. Went on to play a little bit in the NFL, a little bit in the European League. So he had done some stuff, and then he had been coaching out in California for 10 years. And made his way to Florida, and he was a Manatee High School defensive coordinator with Jack Hez Green up there last year, and now on to Sarasota. And of course, Jeremy, his tenure with you and Nick, offensive line coach, if I'm correct,
yes.
when you were with Nick, through the 2000 state championship and onward until almost 2006. I think Jeremy was on our staff, and then he moved on, went to Booker for a little while, and then won a state championship.
Jefferson.
Yeah, that's it. Yep, up in the Panhandle. So, and now at Bay High School, which is his alma mater, which is always kind of a cool thing when you can get that opportunity. When I know he had left Mosley and was looking, and all of a sudden the alma mater shows up. So that's kind of a nice thing. Yeah. So, good show last week, and hopefully we'll get to see those guys again on the 941 podcast. With that, we move to the local and talking to Brian Hatler. Brian, obviously you've been back with us for 3 years or 4?
Yes.
So back at Venice High for 4 years, 3 years I should say, and then but I'm gonna skip backwards a little further. You started your journey with sort of getting with the Venice crew through Nick Coleman, and how did that all come about?
Well, when you sent me the thing this morning, I was thinking about it, and what's kind of amazing to me is that this fall is going to be my 32nd year coaching football. Wow. I started in Colorado. I grew up in Colorado. That's where I went to high school. That's where I ended up playing college ball out there. And then I went back to my alma mater, Littleton High School.
Okay.
And I coached there for 2 years. And then I coached at Arapahoe High School, which is also in Littleton, for a year. And then a college coach of mine got the head job at Port Charlotte High School, and that was Casey Coons. So I came out here in 1995. Nick Coleman was on that staff.
Yeah.
So that's where I first met Nick. I was at Port Charlotte for a couple years, and I think Nick was only there for 1 year, and then he went back up to Venice as an assistant. And then I went to Hardee High School for 2 years, and then when Nick got the head job, he contacted me and wanted to bring me on board at Venice. So I came to Venice in 99, was there for 3 years, and then I went back to Colorado at Arvada West High School with Casey Coons again, who was he had left Port Charlotte and gone and coached college a bit, and he had a family business in Colorado, so he's actually out of coaching for a little bit, and then he got back into it. I went back there with him, and we were there at Arvada West for 13 years, and had a lot of good run there. We were in the Final Four times. We never made it to this championship game, but we had some really good teams and really good coaches and stuff out there. So then in 2015, I came back to Florida. I got the head job at Northport. I was there for 5 years, and then after I left there, John contacted me about an opportunity to come back to Venice, and I met with John and with Larry, and we sat down, and it was kind of a no-brainer for me to come back to Venice.
Yeah, like I said, I know when you left out Colorado, you had been such played a key role in that staff that it was, especially you were the eye in the sky. You were the guy in the box. I remember watching you. You sort of had this. You had certain keys, some things you did, and it was a pretty interesting situation. Once you went away, you had that sort of, I don't want to say. You had a big picture view of things. You weren't overly worried about a penalty or a certain thing, but you had a better view of everything. And it was I've always said, to be honest with you, we've sat there in the press box over the years and said, well, this person and that person over the years. I'm like, Hatler was the best. He knew what was going on up there. So
I appreciate that. I don't know about that though. I mean, we've had a lot of good help up there the last few years as well. And I think in the spring, I went up in the box this spring, and I think I may be looking at doing that again in the fall. So
yeah,
that could be something that comes about.
That would be interesting for sure. Go back to what we're talking about though, starting with Coleman. That Port Charlotte staff. I mean, you guys. I mean, we know you've been part of another group. That's been, we call it our fish camp group, that the guys that all get together and once a year got together for a fishing weekend, so to speak, out in the Lake Placid area. And that staff, those guys, I mean, what a bond you guys created. I mean, I would actually say in a very short window when you were all together. I mean, how do you account for that?
Well, I think that's what athletics is about. I think when you're working together with people for a common goal, you spend a lot of time and you build bonds that are going to last forever. I don't see Nick as often as I'd like to, even though we live very close together. But when we see each other, it's like we've never been apart. We have that bond, and that Port Charlotte staff. There was some good coaches down there. Darren Bryan went on to be the head coach at Hardy and had a lot of success there. And then Mark Ivey was down there, and he's a coach at Louisville now. So, we had some really good group of guys down there, and then we kind of all went our separate ways, and then kind of worked back together. When I had the opportunity, when Nick got the head job at Venice, I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be a part of it. And obviously that, 99, we made it to the playoffs. We got out early.
Yeah, it was a big deal though, because I mean, there was a kind of a lull there for Venice for a little while as far as success in the field was concerned, and then that playoff game that might have been the first step in the 2000 run.
Well, and I think it was because I think the kids that were coming back, they made a commitment that off season. They said that's not going to happen to us again.
Right.
And it was that year was incredible. I mean, we went 15-0. It was undefeated. It was. I don't know that we had the most talented team, but we had a lot of kids that cared about each other and worked together as a team. And they really put in the work. They weren't going to be denied. They had that attitude, and we had some things go our way, obviously, but it was a great run, and we had a really good staff too. We gelled together, and it was a really amazing year. It was a lot of fun, and I look back at it now, and it's 23 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's almost like it was yesterday, but then in a lot of ways it seems like it was a really long time ago. But great staff, great kids, and just worked really hard and had a common goal to get that done. And I think that group of seniors that came back from losing that playoff game, that really motivated them to put in the work to get that done. So it was an amazing run.
That journey that year, I had a great view of what was going on, seeing it all happen. There were some things there were some good bounces that come in any situation.
Sure, absolutely.
But like you had said, there's a lot to be said about the galvanization of a team, how they care about each other and whatnot, but then also the belief that you can do it was another one, because if you, and I know you know this, but that through that playoff run, even up to the state championship, I don't know how many times Venice was favored in any of those games, because there were some teams that
well, we had Manatee, Lakeland, and Pompano Beach. They were very talented that we played in the semifinals, and it was a tough run, but our kids really, they believed that they couldn't be beat.
They're not going to be denied. And in all those games, there was always a play here and there. And like you said, there were. Obviously the backfield was very talented. You had the two running backs that ended up playing in Division I between Trey Smith, who went off to Auburn, and Ardell Daniels, who went to Army for a while. Then I think on to Richmond. Yeah,
had a really good career there.
Yeah, so he did real well. And so, but with that, he said, you're right. It was a blue collar team. There were no 300-pounders that I can remember on that team, but I do remember one thing in regards to, like I said, about being in the press box kind of thing. I don't know, maybe it was stood out in my mind, but we were on defense, and you always were formationally. Everybody had to move to the right spots and everything else, and it always seemed like in each and every game you're like, oh, he's not close enough, he's not here.
Sure.
Britton needs to move this way, he needs to roll this way, but it was no big. It was a minor adjustment, and I want to say it may have been this first or second series that in that game that we played against Dwyer, and you went to say something, and they all just did it. Like it was didn't need to be said. Like whatever you were going to say, they heard it in their own heads in some way. And then you look at that and you thought, wow, that's how a season plays out. The journey plays out. First game through 15th game, and then what you want to have is your best game in your 15th game. And obviously that was the best game.
That year, I think, obviously in the state championship game, everything went right for us, and everything went wrong for Dwyer. They were a more talented team than they showed, but it was just one of those things. Offense, special teams, defense, everything went well for us.
Yeah,
and that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I remember also too, because you talk about how things go wrong, and then how do you go through the adversity of it all. Dwyer wasn't handling the adversity very well, and we go out and put, I think, was it 42 or 35 in the first half? I don't remember exactly.
I think it was 49-7.
It was up there.
It was high.
And you probably remember we were sitting in the press box, and next to us was the guys who were doing it on TV, and one of them was James Bates, who was a Florida Gator graduate. And I talked to him in the hallway for a little bit, and then as the game was going on, we get the lead. Matter of fact, we scored right at the end of the half on a long throw, and it was a whole deal. And they were upset. There was helmets on the ground for Dwyer, and we lined up 2 by 2, shoulder to shoulder, and walked off that field like it was almost like in lockstep. And James Bates he pointed outside. He goes, "What is this? What in the world? You guys should be celebrating and jumping for joy." And they just took their helmets off and walked off the field. Right, perfectly. I said it's all come together. Everything came together.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it was.
And a lot of credit goes to Nick.
And,
and the other guys on our staff at just instilling that discipline and teaching them how to do things right.
One of the things I will tell you this too, when John Peacock started as the head coach, one of the things that we sort of referenced has always been the coaching staff, the community as well around that team. When you looked around the stadium and the state championship, the lead up to everything, where Venice has always had a great amount of support. That particular game or that particular memory of those games really resonated with me. It's saying that's what it could be all the time. You know what I mean? You don't see that a lot. And I'll ask you about Colorado, but just in general, sometimes there's other things to do on a Friday night, and some towns there isn't. And I think that's what Venice has in some ways.
I think Venice probably is one of the most unique communities as far as supporting their high school that I've ever been around, and I've been at a lot of different places, but the support's incredible, and it's everything though at the high school. It's performing arts, it's men's sports, women's sports, it's everything. It's a very supportive community of the high school, and the high school's the hub of the community.
Right.
I think that's hard to find nowadays because, like you said, there's so much other stuff going on. People can find other stuff to do, and they still choose to come out and support Venice High School, which is that's a tribute to the community for sure.
Yeah, and like I said, it's when you as you watch it, we talk about the other sports, like you said, mentioned other sports, the coaches, the administrators, everybody is sort of communal and their support of each other.
Yep.
So there isn't a lot of like, oh, poor me because I didn't get. No, they're looking to emulate each other's success. I'd even might say there's probably a bit of a competition that out there with the coaches on campus.
Absolutely. I think, and that's part of coaching.
Yes,
is a competitive part of it. But yeah, we want to do as well as we can, and we want other programs to be successful. But it's nice, if you can say, well, we've got this many state championships and you've only got this many. But,
right.
But obviously, and Venice is excelled in so many different sports across the board. It's a special place.
Right, and I think all the kids look at each other, and again, the same thing happens with the kids. They're competitive with each other too. They want to do certain things, and facility-wise, some of the things that we've been able to do on the campus has been a large part in the success. So currently now, assistant coach. Can everybody know your specific role right now with Venice High School football?
I'm coaching defensive backs, and I'm in charge of the kickoff team. So, and I played DB, and throughout my coaching career, I've coached everything. I've been an offensive coordinator, I've been a defensive coordinator, I've been a special teams coordinator, coached quarterbacks, D-line, running backs, linebackers. The only position specific that I didn't coach was O-line.
Okay.
But being a coordinator, I was around it a lot. And, I think when I met with John and Larry and had the opportunity to come back, one of the things that appealed to me is what they've done here. And, coaching on defense with we've got, Larry's a defensive coordinator, and you got Sasha Hires over there and Tim Wideline, and we've got a couple other guys helping as well. Jamie Burkle's coming and helping with the secondary, and Coach Jones helping with D-line. And so we work well together, and I think Larry does such a good job of preparing our kids that it's fun to work in that environment.
Yeah.
And the program is established, the expectations are there, and the kids, they want to uphold those expectations. So, it's been great, and I enjoy coaching the defensive backs since I played that position, and I had got away from it for a long time, so it's good to get back to it. And I just really enjoy going out there every day and getting to work. It's a lot of fun.
I'll tell you, also, the last few years has been this year coming up as well, some pretty talented guys you get in the coach too, and then the guys are getting some real heavy looks. So
that makes you a better coach automatically. You got really good kids. So.
But I mean, it's kind of interesting. I mean, there is a balance to that because there are going to be, you're going to coach guys that are 4 or 5 star potential players.
Sure.
But you may not have 3 of them, you may have 1 of them, and so. There's got to be, for you got to figure out the balance on how do you teach a guy that's got all this talent who can utilize his talent maybe more than he does his technique, and then vice versa. You got to teach some, get some technique for a guy who doesn't have as much talent. It's got to be a little bit of a challenge to do that.
And you just want to get the best out of each individual player,
right?
And the last couple of years I've been here, we've had some kids that maybe necessarily didn't contribute a lot on game night, but we wouldn't have been there without them because they came to practice every day, and they ran scout team, and they did everything that was asked of them. And so everybody's got to kind of figure out what their role is in a team, and I think that's a challenge every year. Every year there's different pieces, and we're just going to try to get them in the right places, and hopefully we can have a lot of success.
Yeah, and like I said, that's 100% true about, I think a lot of times, maybe not the kids that are in the program, but sometimes you have parents and people that are on the periphery who say, oh, why can't poor so-and-so play more? Why doesn't? and you say, go talk to him and how he feels about his role. And a lot of times kids are like, yeah, hey, I know where I'm at. I'm good. I'm going to play my place. I'm ready to go if needed. You never know when that opportunity is going to come your way. If you're a senior backup or you're a sophomore starter or however it makes it. But I think when you get that level of buy-in from the entire team, then it makes it a little easier to coach and they believe what you're talking about.
And those kids, every kid that comes out for football at Venice and finishes, whether they played a lot or didn't play a lot, they're gonna learn things from that process that are gonna help them throughout their lives.
Right.
And when we won the state championship in 2000, 23 years later, everybody on that team has a ring.
Yeah.
And probably people don't remember who did what. Obviously, we had some, premier players.
Right.
But there was a lot of guys that contributed, and you can't ever take that away. That's the great thing about winning a state championship.
Yeah.
Is that it becomes part of history, and it can't be taken from you.
Yeah, and a lot of times what happens, but you don't see on Friday, is what happens on Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, where that kid who's the backup is the one giving the first teamer a hard time and making him better. Same thing you said about the ring. One of the friends, his kid was on the team in 2021. He's like, he's got a ring.
Yeah,
that's what it's about, right?
Absolutely.
Wears it proudly, and that's what you want to be.
Yes,
you're a team. That's what it comes all about.
And with football, even more than other sports, because you got 11 guys on the field. It's the ultimate team sport, and when you have that buy-in that we've had and that Coach Peacock's established through the program, it's something special, and it's hard to be beat. I think that we could sit here and look at some of the teams that we've played and that we've beat, and they may have more talent.
Yeah,
but we get our kids to play together as a team and be disciplined and know what their job is, and that makes things happen in a positive way.
Yeah. So one more question regarding being a head coach and being an assistant coach. You see a lot of guys in the NFL or even college where there's they are a head coach and they become an assistant again, and they thirst to be back in that head coaching role. How do you look at it from your perspective? I mean, I know you get a lot out of both situations, but is that still some motivation for you, or is that something that you say, hey, it is what it is, we'll see what happens, kind of?
You never know what the future holds, but I look at our staff right now, in the last 3 years. So we've had, I've been a head coach. Sasha Heyer's been a head coach.
Jerry McManus was in college as a head coach.
Hunter's been a head coach.
Yep.
Riles had been a head coach. So we have a lot of experiences, and Coach Shannon's perfectly capable of being a head coach. He's just been a defensive coordinator here, and it's been a great situation for him. And so we have a lot of different perspective, but it's just like as a player, you got to know your role, and I know my role as an assistant,
right?
And that's what I'm going to perform, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I think there's times when you might want to get back into that role as a head coach, but the 5 years I was at Northport, it was 365 days a year.
Right, it doesn't stop.
It never stops.
Right.
And as an assistant, it can stop a little bit.
Right.
I mean,
there's a chance to breathe.
Yeah, it's a little less that way, but I think for me, it's the people that you're around, and I think we all, we respect each other. We have friendships together, so that makes it easy to go to work every day.
Right, and a lot of times, like I said, being a head coach, I look at it from the perspective of so your job, but you take ownership in it. Mm-hmm. You're not looking for somebody else to tell you how to do it, because you've had to be the leader before. Even what I do for a living, got guys doing work for me, and I'm like, sure. And I'll say, that's your responsibility. That's your section, or that's whatever it may be, and then it's up to you to decide how you want it to look and how you want what your expectation of it is, and then I'm going to make sure that it meets my expectations. Mm-hmm. And it's amazing how much more driven they are to do the job, driven to do it right, because now it represents them in some way. And maybe from a head coaching perspective, that's what you get to be an assistant coach.
Well, and I think, you want to uphold the standard of the program.
Yeah.
And so, John does a good job of letting coaches coach, but and so does Larry, but if we're not doing something that they want, we'll have a conversation about it, and I think we have that trust with each other that allows us to do that. So, there's always going to be disagreements in football.
Yeah.
And I think, what's good about it is, as a staff, once we have a meeting and talk about it, the consensus is we're going to go out and we're going to have a united front. There's always disagreement, but you got to agree to disagree until the decision's made.
Right.
And I think, assistant coaches make suggestions, head coaches make decisions.
Right.
So as long as you know that, it makes it a little easier to work.
And I've seen it in action, and it does work when that is the case. One more question for you. So DB coach can be nerve-wracking. Things, don't let the ball get past you. But kickoff coach, that's got to be the most nerve-wracking job in the whole staff.
Kickoff can be difficult at times because typically, and we've been really good on special teams as well.
Yeah.
But when you're going against kickoff return, they're going to have their best athletes back there.
Yep, no doubt about it.
And there's a lot of great athletes in the state of Florida. And what I run into that makes it difficult when we get in situations where we're up on teams and we're trying to get starters out, and some of those starters may be on kickoff, so we don't want them to get injured on kickoff.
Sure.
So you're trying to manage getting other guys on there, and then sometimes it makes you a little nervous because they still got the best guy back there. But we've been fortunate, and we've had some good kickers that can get the ball in the end zone, and that's the best scenario on kickoff is that
run down there to a ball bouncing in the end zone.
Get the ball in the end zone, and then we can take a breath. When it doesn't hit the end zone, you're holding your breath for the next 3 or 4 seconds. So that's just part of it.
Yeah, and my favorite part is the wild enthusiasm of them running down the field, and you see them just get out of the wrong lane, or they're chasing the wrong guy, and then you're like, oh. That enthusiasm.
A lot of bad things can happen.
No doubt, no doubt. All right, with that, we'll take our first break of the night. Want to make sure we remind everybody that stay tuned for the Truly Known What's Bugging Me section coming up later in the show. Truly Known, our new sponsor for that segment of our show, and some predictions. Maybe Brian will make a prediction on something as well. We'll see how that goes tonight.
Okay.
With that, we'll take our first break and be back here shortly at our home of the 941 Sports Zone, Douglas Jeep. See you back here in the field.
It's the Make This the Summer event at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Now is the time to take advantage of these great deals and make this summer awesome. Get a hot deal on a new Jeep Compass from only $299 per month. Or own the road in a new Ram truck from only $328 per month. Make waves with a new Jeep Grand Cherokee from only $399 per month. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event going on now at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Who has the area's hottest deals and hot new wheels? Douglas does!
Welcome back to Douglas Jeep and the 941 Sports Zone podcast. And Monty Jacobs, Brian knows Monty. Monty sort of initiated this potential of you coming on here at a little get-together we had. And then we appreciate Monty being involved in all facets of the 941 podcast.
Absolutely.
Sports Zone podcast. So anyway, we do appreciate that, and we do appreciate them having us here each and every week to do our show. We're going to head into the state section of our show here, our podcast here. But before I do that, I want to go one more thing back on high school. Currently, how high school sports are now with the recruiting process and how things are kind of handled here and there. What's your opinion on what the current state is compared to, let's say, back in 2000? Do you find it to be a better product or a better way of doing things, or do you like it way it was 22 years ago?
I think that's kind of a really difficult question, because whether you really necessarily like it or not like it, it is
what it is
right now, and it's going to continue to be that way. I think, just as far as the level of players, if you take our most recent state championship team and the 2000 team, I mean, bigger, stronger, faster, the things that these kids do in the weight room now, and the size that they have, I think the games of I think the NFL's the best it's ever been. I think college is. I think high school is too. Even, Pop Warner. I think training and nutrition and all these things make the players better. Now, I think there's, certainly there's some issues, I think, with movement of players that can make things difficult.
Sure.
If you're trying to build a program, and if you have a successful program, people are going to want to go there. And I don't know that there's anything wrong with that. And in the state of Florida, it's different than any other state in the country. So it creates some challenges, but it also creates a lot of opportunity for kids. And so, obviously I'm a little older, and, when I was of the mindset that you go to school where you live and all that, and that's changed academically too. I mean, you have school choice for academics, for performing arts, for athletics, and so that's the parameters we have right now. So I think you try to do the best you can within those parameters, and just coach who's in front of you every day, and try to get better.
The game of football might be the one sport consistently over the last 40 years that seems to improve at a very steady rate, as opposed to seeing you get a lot of arguments about, well, baseball's too slow, or baseball's too fast, and don't touch this and don't touch that, or basketball, nobody plays defense anymore, nobody does this, nobody does that. You hear a lot of controversy, and sometimes you hear a little bit the NFL rule change here and there after a bad call or whatever.
Sure.
But that's been the same forever. I mean, you can go back to the Immaculate Reception, my first recollection of what could have been a bad call.
Yeah.
That was a difference, a changing game, a difference-making play or a call, if you want to call it. So, but it seems like the game has always been sort of on the improve for a long time.
And I think that's a testament to coaches and to players and everybody that's involved with football. To me, it's a respect for the game.
Yeah.
And it's for all the people that have played before and paved the way for us to do this today. Obviously football's had a big impact on my life because I've made it my career. But I think athletics it impacts people on so many different levels. And not everybody stays in close contact with the game like I have as a coach or anything like that, but it still impacts you.
Yeah.
It's, the power of sport is incredible.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt about it. And people who want to fight that power, it's kind of silly to do so, because it does bring about. It's from an entertainment perspective alone. It's I mean, and it's the most watched TV shows, they make movies about them, sports and things, and it's really an interesting concept to think that people would want to be kind of against that, but it has evolved, and culturally it is a huge part of what we all work towards and want to watch and be a part of. So with that, we'll take a quick tack now to the state.
Okay.
All right. So we've been talking about the Rays a lot, because there's really not much going on other than the Rays. There ain't no college going on or nothing going on. So Rays had a rough week last week. I'm not sure if you follow the Rays or not too much, but
I don't follow them a whole lot, but I know they've dropped 7 of the last 10. They're still in the lead, and there's like 70 games to go.
Yeah, so, no, and that's what kind of the thing. What I looking at the 2-game lead in the East going into the All-Star break tonight being Monday night when we do our tapings here, Home Run Derby tonight, All-Star game tomorrow, but a 2-game lead with the second best team in the American League right on their tail with the Baltimore Orioles, and they played some pretty good teams this week. Swept by the Phillies, and then they lost 2 out of 3 to the Braves, and the Braves are currently the best team in the league. So I think with that being the case, that probably All-Star break is coming at a good time for them.
Yeah.
They can get a little bit of a chance to reset.
Yeah,
and get
they'll
themselves back in line.
regroup, and they got off to one of the best starts ever.
Wow.
And I think if they can regroup during the All-Star break, I think they're going to be fine.
It's very hard in a 162 game season to really kind of not have something.
Yeah, to not have
a lull.
a dip.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And baseball is a difficult sport to maintain a consistency with it, because it takes is one pitcher to get you off your game.
Yep.
And something goes wrong and you're just not feeling right about it, and it gets in your mind. It's like anything else. It can really affect you.
A lot of mental part to all athletics, but even with baseball, even probably more so.
Absolutely.
A lot of times.
Absolutely. Speaking of the All-Star game and the home run derby, any opinions? There's been a lot of talk about the last few years how guys that are having great years, they put them in the home run derby, they change their swing or alter their swing in the home run derby, and then they seem to go a little cold afterwards. My personal opinion, I don't know if that really has any effect on them. It's like having a longer batting practice in so many ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think a lot of that may be the fact that they just it's a down period for a little while.
I think we have too many analytics going on.
Well,
there's statistics for everything, especially in baseball. You go to a baseball game, they're like, well, his batting percentage against left-handed pitchers that are over 6 foot tall. They just have so much information, and I think sometimes you can take that too far, and then people read more into it than like you said, maybe they're just in a slump right now, or whatever, because it is a long season, and it's physically taxing to travel and play that many games and everything like that.
That's a answer that a good coach would say. The travel is difficult. You're on the road 81 games, and that's not a small amount of time. You're away from home. Mm-hmm. You're in hotels. You're up late. Don't forget that too, because these games are at night. These guys get finished with a game at let's say 9:30, 10 o'clock, maybe even 11 o'clock. They haven't eaten.
Yeah.
And they have to do certain things, and so their life is very much upside down for a long time.
It's a grind, and when you're talking about 162 games, even if you're at home for half, I mean that's long, and I think that I don't know, maybe shorten the season. It'd be more exciting.
Well, so that's a good. So I do like the rule change they made this year with the pitch clock.
Yes.
I like the fact that they can only throw over so much. Mm-hmm. It's lending itself to more stolen bases. I saw a totally exciting play in Sunday's games. One of the big rookie kid for the Reds got on base, legit stole second, then stole third because they had a shift on for a guy that so nobody kind of covering third, and then in the midst of them sort of convalescing about what just happened, he stole home.
Oh, yeah.
And I thought, wow, man, when's the last time I saw that, where a guy stole 3 bases inside of 2 pitches, and made a difference in the game.
Well, and I think speeding up the game, I think is very good. I think it's good for the game. I went to a spring training game, and they were doing all that stuff, and the game went much faster. So I think that's going to help gain some fans back, or gain some new fans, because it does move along a little bit faster. And everybody wants things to move along.
And I'll tell you the truth, with the Rays, let's say like tonight, the game, say they were playing a 7 o'clock start. Mm-hmm. I might go home and, hey, I get home at 8:30, do some stuff. I'm like, well, I'll try to catch the little end of the game.
Catch the end, yeah.
And guess what? Sometimes now when I get home, it's over.
Yeah.
And that was never the case for years and years and years. You could always get a 7 o'clock start. You could turn on at 9:30 and still catch the last 2 innings of the game or 3 innings of the game. And nowadays, if the pitches are hot and things are going along, even if they're not hot, it's just the fact that they got to throw the ball a little quicker, and the batters can't go out and adjust their glove and adjust everything else, and then it takes forever to get anything done.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing, I think probably the players probably like it too, once they acclimated to it, I think they're going to see that it's beneficial as well.
I think that guy out in right field or that guy out in center field or whatever, and he's going through a pitching change after pitching change, and he's doing all this different stuff, and it's got to be after a while, you stand there from, you get a little fatigued just waiting for something to happen. Your initial point when you said about shortening the season, I think a lot of times the baseball likes to measure itself from its past players by statistics. You said it in analytics and whatnot. So I think that if there's a holdup, it's that, well, how do we know if he was as good as Babe Ruth, or if Babe Ruth is as good as him, or this person, or Mickey Mantle, or whatever it may be? That might be the holdup. But I will tell you that a shortened season, so baseball wasn't constantly climbing into November, I think would be pretty good. If you could end the season and be done with it by mid-October, I think that would be optimum. You're not because they lose out on with football a little bit sometimes. A playoff game, there's a choice that they're gonna. A lot of people would rather watch the Vikings and the Packers than they would a divisional series game against with somebody else who's in a baseball game. So I think that is good. And I think again locally, as far as the state is concerned, the Rays are. Again, I think they're going to just continue to be what they're going to be, and I love their lineup. I think their lineup is consistent, and I think they're going to do very well this year.
Yeah, I think I agree with you that I think the break's coming at the right time for them, and they'll regroup and get back at it.
Yep. With that, we'll take our second break of the night. Come back, talk a little bit about these next two weeks. Maybe I'm calling them 2 weeks where. Really, in sports, there's the gigantic lull, waiting for the summer camps to open for the NFL, and waiting for the season to start in NFL, and then coming out of this All-Star break with baseball being kind of the only game in town. Unless you're a Canadian football fan. Are you a Canadian football fan?
No.
Okay. Well, you can watch Canadian football right now.
They have too many guys on the field at once.
It's a little confusing sometimes, for sure. So with that, we'll come back and talk a little national sports. Right here at Douglas Jeep and the 941 Sports Zone. See you back here shortly.
It's the Make This the Summer event at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Now is the time to take advantage of these great deals and make this summer awesome. Get a hot deal on a new Jeep Compass from only $299 per month. Or own the road in a new Ram truck from only $328 per month. Make waves with a new Jeep Grand Cherokee from only $399 per month. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event going on now at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Who has the area's hottest deals and hot new wheels? Douglas does!
And welcome back to the 941 Sports Zone and Douglas Jeep. And Brian, this is where we stepped into our national discussion. And nationally, there's really not much going on, right? Tonight we have the Home Run Derby. All-Star game on Tuesday night, and as far as what you have at some part of the year when you have all four major sports playing, college sports as well. Now you've got college on hiatus altogether.
Yep.
You've got the baseball on a couple of days off, and then leading into what potentially is everybody's favorite couple of weeks when all of a sudden pro football starts and college football camps open up, leading into the big August-September kickoff. But yeah, I mean it's a weird void. You're so used to seeing multiple sports and multiple options, and I think this past Sunday when I was flipping the channels, there was two golf tournaments going on, and I don't know how much else there was going on to watch on TV, and where you have every channel has something going on.
You got a little bit of UFC.
Oh well, I did watch a little UFC.
Yeah,
it was pretty and right and probably a smart time to do it. They're doing it all the time, but get something out there and kind of catch the eye of somebody.
Try to get some more major cards with some guys, during this time. And you talk about the worst 2 weeks. I think the worst 2 weeks is the 4th of July and also the week after the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
because it's over
right
for that year, and everybody's like,
you gotta, it's like a void.
Yeah.
But I tell you, with the NFL, I mean, they've sort of are trying to fill that dance card up a little bit with heading right to the combine and doing some things
Sure.
and whatnot. Which obviously there's a lot of people, me included, who enjoy the off season not as much as the regular season, not even close.
Sure.
But there's a lot to be said about
But
being.
yeah, they try to keep themselves relevant.
And are
all year long.
doing a fantastic job of it. I
Absolutely.
mean, it's just amazing. For as much as I know they flinch about, you hear some of these things now. They got the gambling issue with guys gambling. They don't want, but at some point in time, as long as you're relevant and you're on you're the lead story, then there's something to talk about, and
Yes,
and
sir.
they're happy with it. And but again, as a kid, I don't remember it being as sort of barren, as you want to call it, as it feels these days.
It is kind of a weird time.
And it also, I think a little bit. I'll not to cast any dispersions on the NBA or the NHL, but their series have gone longer. Okay, so as the season keeps going and going, NBA's almost to mid June, late June. Hockey the same way. So everybody is they're playing and getting their big stuff, and even this year with college baseball had a lot going on, and everything seemed to come to one big poof.
Yeah.
And then here you are, and there's baseball saying, well, we're here. And you're like, well, is that enough for me?
Yeah.
I think that's
And
what it comes down to. Maybe it's just not enough.
Yeah. Well, your options are definitely limited.
Yes.
Like you said, just because everything else just came to an abrupt stop, and everybody's looking around. Okay, what do we do?
Now what do we do?
Yeah.
It was when Forrest Gump was running and he stopped in the middle of the desert, and they all says, what
I'm
do we
done.
do now?
I'm done.
going home. Like,
I'm done
I don't
running.
know what to
I'm
do
going
with
home.
myself. So yeah, a little bit of that, and I'm sure that, like I said, somebody will probably come up with a way to sort of either extend something or bring something in quicker.
Yeah,
and then,
create something.
yeah, something will fill that void for sure.
Absolutely.
One other thing I wanted to talk about during our national segment kind of came up as being a coach, football coach. There is an issue right currently at Northwestern University. Pat Fitzgerald, who's a former player at Northwestern and been a longtime coach at Northwestern, and very, very well liked. Overachiever for the team as a coach, or whatever it may be. He's always been that guy. But there's been accusations of hazing, and we've heard about hazing in the college ranks, from fraternities to you name it, and sports as well, where there's been some terrible things that have been done from a hazing perspective.
Sure.
And what they're being accused of at Northwestern isn't very pretty
No.
for any stretch.
No,
There's
it's
things.
not. It's not bringing good light on the program in any way, shape, or form. And I think what's difficult about it is right now you've got one camp that is very supportive of the coach and the program, and you have another camp that is saying something completely opposite.
Right.
And it becomes almost a he said, she said. The truth is probably somewhere in the middle. And now, he's been suspended without pay for 2 weeks. And I was reading today that now the president's thinking he may not have done enough. And they haven't been, they made a release about the investigation, but there's not a whole lot of details. So
I would say from a very warped way of thinking about it, but it maybe was thought of as sort of a team building scenario long ago to kind of get you to be on board, and you got to just kind of cross some threshold as a player or a teammate to kind of get to everybody's respect level. But it's outdated. It's been something that nobody in this day and age is gonna support, because it's an act of violence. It's criminal.
And it creates dissension. It doesn't create unity. It creates dissension, and some of these accusations, like you just said, may turn out to be criminal at some point. So, very, very sad to see, and I don't know what the result is going to be in the end.
Well, here's one part of the story that sort of dances the line a little bit. So there is potential deniability from the coach saying, I have never seen this. I don't know of this. Okay.
Yes.
And so if there is validity to it, let's say there's maybe it's not, let's say it falls in the middle and it's something that has been occurring, but maybe not to the magnitude nor the volume of what it may be, or it wasn't put in. It's not part of the structure of the team in some way. Mm-hmm. Then he can deny the situation and maybe manage not to lose his job and everything stays the same. From your perspective, being a head coach, do you look at it and say I'm responsible for everything, or is there some line that if you really don't know, are you somehow not responsible for it?
That's a tough question too, because you hear the argument all the time. Well, if you didn't know, you should have.
Right.
And so where does that line fall? I think there's things that certainly go on within a program that as a head coach you aren't going to know about.
Right.
But where is that line that you should know about it? And he's had a lot of people come out saying that he did not know about it. But again, the report was very vague, and it said he didn't have direct knowledge about it, but he should have. That's tough, and I think it's hard to put individuals' actions as another individual's responsibility.
Right.
Especially
they're adults.
Yeah,
these guys' kids are adults.
They're young adults.
Yeah.
They're young adults. Apparently they would leave campus to go to like a camp.
Right.
And this is where so they were all on the road together away from their campus, for some team related activities, and that goes back to they were probably doing that as a way to team build. We're not gonna have distractions of our own university. Yeah. We're gonna go off, and it's just gonna be us together. So there could have been some perception of that was part of the team building, but then some of the accusations are that some really bad things were going on, and that's a tough question.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes as a head coach, we do feel responsible for everything that happens within a program, even if it's beyond our control. So, and that's just, I think that's just a personal thing that people feel that, and he may be questioning that too right now. He may be saying, well, should I have known?
Yeah, I would probably imagine he is thinking, did I just selectively look the other way because I didn't matter to me, or it wasn't really my responsibility? You have to start questioning, what your motives are.
And there's definitely when things happen like that, and you're a leader in any capacity, whether it's a business or a sport, whatever it is, there's going to be some self-reflection for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a difficult thing, and I don't have enough knowledge of it to say one way or the other, because I've kind of read about it a little bit, and I'll read one article and I'll start thinking one way, and then I'll read another one and I'll think another way. So when those situations arise, it's tough, but it's definitely will raise awareness to all of that, and it's always the trickle down effect. Things happen in college, and then it happens in high school, and then so it just comes down. So there's things that you have to be aware of, and you have to do everything possible to prevent those situations from really having the potential to occur.
Right. And my thought too is, like you said, if it's a lot of times I feel like if it's on campus, so to speak, and it's in your house, so to speak, then I think there is some responsibility to that. It would be, to me, if somebody said, hey, did you ever check the locker room? It's never been cleaned in 6 weeks. coach might go in there and check. I'm surprised that a player didn't come back and say something to the coach saying, or an assistant or somebody like that, say, hey, some of the stuff's going on here. I'm cool with some stuff, but some of the stuff they're asking me to do is not right. That seems like why that didn't happen. But I will say this too. If it's an off-campus situation, I don't think the coach is responsible in a lot of ways. Look at the University of Georgia right now. They had the incident after the national championship where the player and the assistant got killed.
Yes.
In a car in a speeding an incident. Now they had one of their best players just like 2-3 days ago get pulled over for going 88 and a 55, and they're saying, oh, it's a problem for the University of Georgia. No, I don't think it is. Kids are going to drive fast. Kids are going to be kids. They're not on campus, but yet it's still tied to the university because obviously they're all players there, and there was a tragedy that happened. You don't know if there's been, that to me is, I can't be in a car with a kid and he's driving it a little too fast.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about that in some cases. I think maybe they're going to give him as much of lessons, or they're going to do whatever they can to tell him not to do it. But ultimately, it comes down to that person, again, a young adult, to make a decision whether they want to go 88 and a 55 or go 55 and a 55.
Sure.
So I think that's a little bit of it too, where a coach, you can only do so much. And again, in high school, some of the things aren't the same situations, but we've talked about this over the years with amongst the coaches and whatnot. How you can do all you can for that player, that young man, in the few hours you have him after school every day. But how much of an influence is everything else in his life? And you only have a certain window to be with them, and hopefully the good pays off. But sometimes the influences are too big.
You always hope it's kind of like with your kids. You hope that you give them the ability and the wisdom and the knowledge to make good decisions when they're by themselves, and sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about young people, we've all made bad decisions in our lives. But if it becomes this, they're trying to almost say that this has been a systematic thing that's been going on, and it's a very tough situation, and it's a bad situation for everybody involved, and hopefully there can be some positive result out of it in the long run.
And it's almost, you're right, with having a 2-week suspension, maybe Fitzgerald comes back and says, look, where it started, how it started, we can figure that out, but let's find a way to make it right. Let's put the energy into all this, if we can, into obviously cease and desist any of that stuff if it is happening, and let's just try to make it, be aware of it. Northwestern being a very high academic.
I mean, it's a very well respected university, and he's been there 11 years as the head coach or something like that, and he's done some things that they've never done there as a program. So for this to happen is it's concerning, and I'm sure that he's more concerned than anybody else about it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And like I said, maybe you talked about Northwestern being sort of the team that has to overachieve in order to have a pretty good season. They have done it quite a bit. Maybe that chip on the shoulder sort of mentality, maybe that high intensity that you have to play at to be able to beat Ohio State or whatever it may be.
Sure.
Maybe that sort of transferred over to into a bad spot with some of the players, and they took that same intensity level and said, we're going to get everybody to be at this level, and they treat it a little, they take the wrong path when it comes to that. So interesting situation. You hear these things, unfortunately it pops up every once in a while, and it's you don't understand how it can get to the level it gets to.
How does it get to that point? And are people going along with it because they don't want to be singled out? It becomes kind of a mob mentality type of thing, which is, and that's no excuse. It's just, like you said, how does it get to that point?
Yeah, and again, that's probably why everybody's saying, if this guy's been as good as he's been and been so connected to these kids, how come nobody whispered in his ear once and said, Coach, man, this is what just happened, and maybe we shouldn't have this happen?
Well, and there's at a college program like that, there's more than just the head coach. There's a lot of coaches. There's GAs. There's staff. There's so many people that are involved in that program. Hopefully somebody would have said something just to raise an alert to prevent this from ever getting as far as it did.
Yeah, you're 100% right. And just real quick, how at Iowa when they had the weight training coach who had done some similar type things, and he was a little bit off color with some things he said to people and everything else. It never got up the line. It never got to the head coach. He didn't know. I mean, he was sort of he had deniability. He had no idea because it didn't get out of there.
Sure.
And a lot of times head coaches, I mean, I think they all like to think that Nick Saban sits around and reads, hugs everybody after a game, but he's not even seen. He says something, off he goes.
Yeah.
And so sometimes they're not as accessible, maybe not as close to the team as maybe we think they are.
They have a lot of tasks that people don't really know about, and they're sometimes not as accessible as the general public would think they are.
You would think they know, but sometimes they just don't. Yeah, no doubt. With that, we'll take our last break of the night and come back with the Truly Nolan What's Bugging Me segment and some predictions if Brian is so happy to do so. If he wants to, he can make some predictions as well. So with that, we'll take a break, come back with our Truly Nolan segment, What's Bugging Me, and predictions here from Douglas Jeep and the 941 Sports Zone. See you shortly.
It's the Make This the Summer event at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Now is the time to take advantage of these great deals and make this summer awesome. Get a hot deal on the new Jeep Compass from only $299 per month. Or own the road in the new Ram truck from only $328 per month. Make waves with the new Jeep Grand Cherokee from only $399 per month. Don't miss the Make This the Summer event going on now at Douglas Jeep Chrysler Dodge Ram in Venice. Who has the area's hottest deals and hot new wheels? Douglas does!
And welcome back to the 941 Sports Zone podcast. Here with Brian Hatler. And Brian, so this is our Truly Nolan What's Bugging Me section, along with we do some predictions. If you have anything sports related and or just general life situation that's bugging you, by all means, you have a chance to voice it right now if you'd like.
Really not. There's not a lot bugging me right now because I got hired at Venice now to teach there, so I'm going to be teaching and coaching at the same place.
Very good
so
deal.
that's a positive thing for me. I think it's interesting that we've spent so much time talking about a little submarine.
Yeah. That's it's funny you say that because
it's interesting and everything, but I think there was a bunch of risk involved
and all of them knew what they were getting involved in.
They knew it, and obviously there was some red flags with that company, but I guess.
And the other part of it is you have to carry it out, but the Navy kind of told them when it first happened what happened.
Yeah.
And obviously I get where they didn't want that to be a situation where they assumed too much in that situation, but a lot of that effort was a big issue.
Yeah.
To get to go through all that stuff.
But they paid a lot of money to be involved in it, and I would think that you would do a little more research on your own before getting involved in something like that. It's and it sounds like there was a history of problems and issues and
very cavalier with how they approached the thing.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think there was a lot of arrogance involved, and but that's all everybody talked about for about a week.
Yeah.
And it was, I don't know.
Yeah, no, you're right. No, that's fine. That there's nothing.
A little strange.
It's what's bugging you, and that's exactly what that needs to be.
Not that much bugs me. So,
so it was a minor bug.
Yeah.
A minor bug. I gotcha.
Because I followed it too. I was like, wow.
Well, because it was compelling.
Yeah, it was, but.
Yeah,
you look back at it now, and I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. What's bugging me? Well, obviously, being a sports fan, these 2 weeks are already bugging me, which kind of made it a subject in particular. But overall, I will tell you that the lead up to the NFL, where you have people, I know it's their job. Analysts have to make predictions, have to do all different things.
Sure.
It comes out with how many games they're going to win and what's the over/under. It's all to do with gambling. It's prop bets, all that different stuff. But at some point in time, to make predictions and say that this is what it's going to be for sure. Who's going to win? Who's going to be this? The better teams. Certain.
Sure.
But to make these hardcore predictions now, or even ask somebody to make a prediction about what's going to happen in December, every year in the NFL, without a shadow of a doubt, some team that is expected that everybody's got all their money on, everything is going to be great. There are one or two injuries in the preseason that all of a sudden wipes them off.
Sure.
Whoever you thought was going to be that guy is not that team. And I think a lot of times football, because of all the moving pieces and the preparation for the season before it starts, I think a lot of times it gets to the point where it's like, I don't mind talking about who your quarterback's going to be. I don't mind talking about who the running back's going to be and how well you think. But to sort of say to yourself, this is a for sure scenario, to me, it never makes very much sense to me.
Well, the NFL season is so long and grueling, and then you have, you're looking at very large, fast human beings that are colliding with each other violently.
Yeah.
And you just never know who's going to get hurt. You look at the situation with the 49ers in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Nobody could have predicted that. You're trying to play a game and you don't have anybody that can throw a football in the NFL.
Yeah, a running back who has to play quarterback. But the thing is, like I said, it's just right now with this thing, it just seems like, man, there should be favorites, but to have these sort of like these definite sort of, and again, they're filling some space. They're filling some time. But to sit there and say this is a definite, you can't do it. It's a very brutal contact sport.
You can't predict human performance over a long period of time.
Yeah,
it's very difficult to do, and they're all professionals,
right?
And I think what's interesting to me too, when we're gonna when lengthening the season and doing that stuff, and there's all this stuff about player safety and everything like that. I think if they want to back that up, they should increase their roster size.
Again, you're 100% right. Why would they not? Why would there not be a fourth quarterback available at any time? Yeah. You should never be in a situation they were in where there's no quarterback to
because
play the game.
It hurt the game. It probably hurt viewership to some degree. People turned it off. They said it's done. It's over.
And at that point, it was pretty accurate. That's for sure.
Oh yeah.
A prediction?
Avalanche is going to win the Stanley Cup next year.
All right, I like it. So I can write that one down. So Brian says Avalanche win Stanley Cup. For me, I'm going to keep something.
Because I got to get back to Colorado. I got to give them some
good.
props.
Yeah, you have to go back.
Because it certainly won't. The Broncos certainly won't be in the Super Bowl. So I'm going with the Avalanche.
I'm interested to see that Sean Payton Russell Wilson marriage. I'm interested to see how that works out. It's going to be one of the more compelling stories.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Yes, absolutely.
Because Peyton has got a track record of success. For me, I'm going to make a real local one. Again, we'll be airing our show on a Wednesday night. This already have happened, so I'm going to predict American League wins the All-Star game. So I'm going AL wins All-Star game. So that's my quick prediction in this very, very dull time of the year for sports. I'll go with the All-Star game and AL wins. With that, Brian, it's the end of our show.
All right.
You see?
I appreciate you having me on.
Oh, man, anytime. And like I said, we'll be showing a lot of highlights from Venice High School. We will see you in the press box during our live stream games and all that good stuff. So we'll be around all these production guys you see here. You get to know them quite a bit. They're up there with us, too. So, again, thank you for coming. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. You're welcome. Looking forward to it.
Brian Hatler, Venice High School assistant coach, DB coach, and kickoff coach. So watch those kickoffs.
All right. Go Indians.
Go Indians. Note with that. With that, thank you again for watching the 941 Sports Zone. I'm John Massoni. See you here next week from Douglas Jeep. Have a great night.